Alright, so in the previous video we talked about HTTP and then we saw why we are going to use Express. So in this video let's talk more about Express.js and how things should be done. We already have the Express code that we wrote in the previous video. We have the HTTP code that's been commented out, and I'll ask you to go out and play a little bit with HTTP if you want to. You can simply Google how to send data based on different routes in HTTP and all. But yeah, all in all, you will find out why we use Express, since because there's a lot of things that Express can do for us easily, so that we can focus more on developing our own product instead of talking more to the HTTP server. That's what Apache did for PHP, obviously. Now here let's talk about the stuff again. So we have the const express that uses Express. Then we have app. We use the app to handle different routes, whether it's a get request or post request, delete request, put request. Although from your browser you normally won't be sending delete request, put request. That's basically sent via APIs, but still we could be handling get and post request. Then we are using the app to listen to a port, that's port 8000. Now a better way to do here will be to declare a port. We will say some constant value port, and this will come from process.env.port. So the default port that's been assigned to the process, we want to use that, or if that's not available, or just use port 8000. And also here, if you want, you can, there is a listener function, so if you want you can add here something, let's say like a server is running. So I can simply say here console.log server started. So this is the first thing that we are going to do. We are not going to talk about app get and get right now. Let's just talk about this port and all. Now the second thing is that we are going to talk about nodemon, what that does for us. If I head back to my command prompt, so I can obviously say node space index.js, and obviously now you get here a server started log. Now when I hit here enter, you can see we have this hi I'm an h1 tag, the default one that we have set here. But if you make any single change here, let's say I'm saying I change this hi I'm h1 tag, and then I say, then I just put my name. If I save this, now again I have to go back to my terminal, I have to quit this server, I have to run this again go back to my browser, refresh, and then I will say that change. Now that's obviously not how we are going to do, right? So there is a package that helps us, that's nodemon. So I have to say npm I, but I want nodemon to my dev dependency only. I don't want it to be in production. So I say dash capital D and then I say nodemon. When I hit enter, now this will install nodemon for me. And what nodemon does is that it looks for changes in our files, JavaScript files, CSS files, or any files as such. And then if there is some change, it restarts the server automatically. Now I have to go back to our Visual Studio Code. You can see in package.json we have a dev dependency, that's nodemon. Now to use nodemon, there's one way we can say nodemon space index, but a better way is that we add that as a script and then we use that. So I'm saying that I have here a start command, and what start command is going to do is that it's going to use nodemon to run index.js. Okay, now let's just save it. Now let's go back to our terminal, and here let me show you what happens. So if I run something like npm test, okay, it says error, no test is specified. So if you go back to your package.json, you will see that this data is here. Okay, we say it says echo error, no test is specified, and then exit one. So basically this is what been run from a command prompt. So it echoes some data and then it exits. So if I say npm start, it will run this particular command, that's nodemon index.js, and that's what we want. So from now on, we are not going to use node space index.js. We are going to use npm space start, hit enter. And then as you can see, it says, hey, we have started nodemon, and nodemon is looking for any files that have .js extension, mjs extension, .json extension. And if there is any change, nodemon will automatically restart the server. So that's something better. So here if I just remove this, if I save it, you can see nodemon restarted it. If I go back here, if I refresh here, the data is gone. So that's one thing I want to talk about. Next thing that I want to talk about is about the request and response parameter. So as of now, whenever we get to any route we see that we have a request and a response parameter. In simple terms, all that happens is that request contains all the data related to the request, and the rest contain all the data that has to be sent as a response or has to do anything with parsing the response. So request will contain parameters, all the get parameters, whatever is being sent in the body, our host details and such. And REST will again, request will also contain headers data and all. REST can use that header data, and REST can do stuff like sending data, sending JSON, sending HTML5, sending data based on some keys that can be used to render views in the front end, a lot more. So here, for example, if I say something like request, if I say something like console dot log, I say request one dot params. Let's say I enter a parameter, name it as para. Now what this parameter is, that this is something that's sent via our route. For example, contacts, login, sign up, or anything as such. But this can make this process more dynamic. So first of all, I have to here use a colon and a para. This is just for showing you how request does stuff and all. You don't have to worry about it. We will talk about parameters and optional parameters in detail. So here, if I since I have done this colon para, if I save this, obviously it should have been restarted. Now I can go back here, and if I say something like slash hi, hit enter, and it says the same data. But if you go back to our console, you will see that we have hi printed out. If I say something in more detail, let's say I am a parameter, and if I hit enter, you can see here that I have that I am a parameter printed. So this is how request contains a lot of data. In the same way, we have REST too. So for example, right now you can see that REST is being used to send simple HTML string, which is being parsed in the front end, obviously. And as I've already showed you, we can send simple string using REST too. REST has no issues with that. If you refresh, you see now that's a single string. If you want, we can even send JSON data. So I can say something like rest.json, and then in the JSON we have a simple JSON structure. So let's say we have name, and that name is going to be, let's say, Prince. Okay, let's save it. Let's go back, and here I want to remove this. Let's hit enter, and you see, okay, I have to remove this too, because this right now is a parameter which is not optional, so it will request that every time. If I hit enter, you can see that now we have a JSON response that contains name as a key and Prince as a value. That's how we can send REST. Just how we can use REST to send responses. Also, sometimes it's highly recommended that you use rest.end to end the response, and also that you use rest.status to set some status code. So rest.status code, and you can set it to, let's say, 200. Okay, but that's not status code. We have to use send status. Okay, and this can be used to send status code. But most of the time you can see, I mean, I won't say that most of the time people ignore it, but sometimes when we are talking about tutorials and all, we ignore these two stuff. First is that normally when if your data is correct, if your response is correct, if files are being parsed correctly, if there is no authorization error, if your server is running correctly, you will by default give a 200 response. And if there is an error, that error response would be sent like not authorized and all. But sometimes you might want to do that. So I'm just saying that these are certain other responses like 403 not authorized, 404 not found, 500 anything that is that's associated with server errors. But most of the time in tutorials you will see that people will ignore this particular line and this particular line, because obviously we have to talk a lot, so we won't be typing that every time, but you might have to remember that. The third thing is that sending an HTML file, which obviously you might not have to do more, but again, if you want to send some file, you can use send file. Now send file will ask a path, and this path has to be from the root, right? So we can't just say /index.html and send that. But obviously to send HTML, we need some HTML. I'm going to create this index.html file. It will contain a p tag with some lorem ipsum, let's say lorem 50. And now if I go back to my index.js, I have to say that I want to send a file, and that file is index.js. But we need to tell here what's the root here. So I just say root :_dir name, and now I can simply send it with a slash. So what basically happens is that this directory is being stored in the dir name, and then I'm saying in this directory, in the initial route, search for index.html not js, and then send that. I will save this, and let's go back to a browser. Let's hit run, and you can see that now we have that p tag data as an HTML. But these two we won't be doing often, but I'm showing you if you want to send some video file, audio file as well for people to download, you can use this. Or let's say you are generating some file and then you are sending it, then you can use this. Anyway, we won't be using it like this too. Obviously, when you will be using static and all, we will use the path package to set our path using dir name and that. But anyway, this video was all about setting up port, setting up nodemon, and understanding the get and understanding the request and response. Next videos we will talk more about other stuff that will help you get started with this.